Here we are. We're all yours, Rosemary.
Thank you, Maya. I want to start by going back to the affirmation that Gloria so wonderfully shared with us. I think peace, I feel peace, I am peace. And I'm going to light a candle too. This is it's hard to see it. It's a candle that a friend of mine who makes candles made and gave to his friends. It has a map of Ukraine on it and a butterfly and the legend, I am the beginning of peace. I am the ending of war. I am love. So I'd like to light that candle, the candle of peace. And I don't have any place behind me to put it. So I'm just going to have to put it next to the computer on the table. And I wanted to affirm that message about peace because it is truth. That is who we are inside, all of us. And yet, all of us have also experienced wars. We've experienced international wars between nations and groups of nations and territories and continents and religions and races. And there are many warlike ideas going on around us. And today, I'm going to share a little bit about my own experiences with World War II. And then look at unity teachings about how do we use the unity teachings to become spokespeople for peace and not for war. And it's a reminder of stuff that we know, but usually, I'm going to talk about chemicalization, which is a term you probably encountered somewhere along the line. And I know when I first encountered it, it was very personal. It was when I was feeling ill, personally. And illness is an expression, an experience of war. So, I just want to share about what the teachings that I've found and how they really do apply to wars of all kinds. I was turning 2 when the United States entered World War II. I grew up, as you know, in southern New England along the coast. That's next to New York City, a little bit to the west of that. And there, we felt under attack constantly. So when I was a very small child, every night, every day, there were reports of submarines here off the coast and there off the coast and the other place off the coast, and airplanes that had the Nazi insignia on them that flew close to the coast. And I was very much immersed, along with a lot of other people, in that awareness of risk of war. I was very aware of the rationing and the shortages, and our family members who were serving in the service on various fronts, and the constant risks that they were running. So my emotional life as a child, until I was almost 7, was imbued with this awareness of the world being at war and all the risks and all the sadness and all the danger that entailed. And I was an oldest child, and so I spent my life tuning into the adults around me and accepting, the fear that they felt. But I remember one day when I was 2 months short of 7, all of a sudden we were in the house and we heard church bells. And I thought, well, that's strange. Why is the church bell ringing? And then I realized it was church bells from all over. And, like many American towns, there was a church on every corner. So that was a lot of church bells. And everybody knew intuitively that has to be the end of the war. And I remember running out of the house with all kinds of people. Everybody was in the street. We were jumping up and down, and we were dancing, and we were hugging people we didn't even know. And the realization in that moment that, oh, the war, it's gone, was like, it was like a spiritual experience. It was like a near-death experience, like, oh, wow, the war is gone. And I remember the amazing joy that I felt. I mean, who thinks with a little kid? But I'm telling you that was my experience. And then, of course, a dozen years later, I went to France. And I ended up in Eastern France, which had been occupied by the Germans. And the Germans weren't any better than the Russians are being now. And a lot of my friends had ended up in internment camps with their families, with their parents. And their early childhood had been spent in that environment, or they were hidden away in the countryside with relatives. And that was a fearful experience as well. And so, as I went along, I learned more and more about war and how horrible it is. And it just seemed to me today that what's happening in Ukraine that is really hard, at least has been hard for me to get out of, because I'm feeling war anxiety again that I remember from my childhood. And I don't know why, I came across a text that Charles Fillmore had written in 1919 in Unity magazine, and talking about chemicalization. I realized, oh, that's not only illness, that's not only personal problems, excuse me, that's what we're experiencing now, is chemicalization. So what is chemicalization? It's a clash between third dimension physical awareness with all the conflicts that entails, and fourth dimension, higher spiritual ideas. metaphysical laws teach us that ideas that are deeply believed motivate our behaviors, motivate human behaviors. And the ideas that we receive as part of our legacy from ancestors and those we've experienced in our young childhood are among the least conscious ideas that we carry within us and the hardest to become conscious of, and then to be able to dislodge. We can't get rid of them until we become conscious of them. And ideas behave like living beings. They don't want to die. So they fight for ongoing life. So like I said, on May 3rd, 1919, in Unity magazine, Charles Fillmore defined chemicalization, saying, quote, "It's a condition in the mind that is brought about by the conflict, the war, that takes place when a high spiritual realization contacts an old error state of consciousness." You can recognize Fillmore's habitual language there. Whenever a new spiritual idea is introduced into the mind, a negative belief is disturbed. It resists. With this resistance comes commotion in the consciousness. I love that word, commotion. So with this resistance comes a disturbance, a conscious disturbance. So, end quote. Usually in Unity, we see that on an individual level. It's been diagnosed on an individual level. And that was my first awareness of chemicalization. I had been given 3 months to complete the remaining 12 C classes that I needed to be ordained. Do the arithmetic. How long does it take to do a C class? You do 1 class a week. And so they said that, okay, I was admitted to the final approval process for ordination after I had done those 12 classes in 3 months. I have to tell you that the first question the committee asked me when the interview came was, okay, so which classes didn't you manage to do? It was a purposeful challenge. They didn't expect me to be able to do it. Nobody told me that. So, so I set out to do what I'd been told to do because I was going to get ordained. And I figured out, okay, I can do these online, and then I can't. There were only 8 of the classes, I think, that were available online. There were 7. And I got our regional director to tutor me personally on the 8th. And then I signed up for the other 4 in a C week in Orlando. So I went to the C week, and during that week, I was taking 10 classes. I mean, every waking moment, I was either present in a class or doing the homework for one of the classes. And about the second day of the week, oh my God, I felt so sick. I thought I was going to die. But I wasn't recognizably sick. I didn't have a cold. I didn't have anything that was recognizable. I just felt awful. And so finally on the 3rd day, I went and saw Paul Hasselbeck, who was my teacher for 2 of the classes. And I said, what is going on? So he told me about chemicalization. And wow, that I think it was a right-on diagnosis to be taking unity classes, 16 hours a day, every day, was a big onslaught to whatever hereditary or childhood beliefs were still in my system. And so I barely made it to the end of the week, but I did. I completed the courses, I passed them. I completed all the courses, I passed them. And when the committee asked me that question, I said, there weren't any. I did them all. And there was total, complete silence for a few minutes. I don't think they had expected that they were going to actually interview me, but they did. So that was my introduction to chemicalization, which I've experienced a couple of times since and recognized it. But it occurred to me that with the definition that Fillmore gave us in that article, that, that applies to everybody and everything and every group and every awareness. And it applies to the war that's going on now in Ukraine. It applies to every war. So as metaphysicians, we know that the world is in divine order. In other words, whatever's going on anywhere at any time is helping earthly beings to bring about goodness and love. That is thinking, feeling, and being peace. To know that it doesn't matter what the appearances are. The truth is that the world is moving toward evolving awareness, toward greater awareness. And this war is a war of old ideas coming up against new awareness. As I reflected on, I realized, okay, so war is actually an essential experience in the third dimension. Because anytime that love and positive ideas arise and get energized, there's going to be opposing ideas that go to war. It's not so much the people, it's the ideas. And that's an experience of chemicalization. So let's think about sickness for a minute. That's a war, that's a conflict, it's a war. And when we get sick, injury is a bit different, but usually there are organisms involved and they like to stay alive too. So they learn to manage us. They learn to not challenge us that we're all going to die, because then they die too. They learn to survive with us. And it's up to us to learn to strengthen our spiritual awareness and to live peacefully with them and not get caught up in their war. So our courage and our strength in choosing and holding close a path to positive, loving experience. There are tools for helping us find meaning and worth in transitioning from the metaphysical third dimension of awareness to the higher spiritual plane, where we're no longer at war, where we have moved into a space where we are peace, where we are love. So further along in the article from the 1919 Unity magazine, Mr. Fillmore writes, chemicalization can be greatly modified or eliminated by putting the mind in divine order through denial. And we know theoretically about denial, but most people in unity really enjoy the positive aspects, and people don't want to talk about what they don't like, what they deny. So denial frequently goes by the board, because as people in unity, as students of unity, we resonate to the positive message, but we don't like to remember what we need to deny. So we're kind of short on denial and long on affirmation in our practice. But keeping in mind that statement by Charles Fillmore, chemicalization can be greatly modified or eliminated by putting the mind in divine order through denial. If denial does not precede the new higher idea, the old era thoughts contend for their place, refuse to go out, and a veritable war is the result. When the conscious mind has been put in order, the Holy Spirit descends with peace like a dove. Interesting. So I've been really interested in the last week to realize that Putin's war has been going on since at least 2008. Our news media didn't say that the wave of Syrian refugees, for instance, was caused because Russia bombed living places in Syria. I saw photographs of Syria after Putin's army had been there, and it looks just like the places in Ukraine. They've been doing this for a long time. And actually, because we have contacts on Living Peace now in Afghanistan, those people told me about the Russians and how they had destroyed livability in Afghanistan for more than 10 years and murdered people. And actually, if you think about it, this whole attitude of Russia versus any other country has really been going on since about the 1450s with Ivan the Terrible. Why are we suddenly, all of a sudden, confronted with this awareness of war in Ukraine? It's been going on since 2014 with thousands and thousands of casualties on the part of Ukrainians. Why are we just learning and responding to this now? Interesting. So Putin's idea, they say, is, okay, I am standing up for the right of Russia to be a colonialist power. which you guys don't want us to be. Is that an old idea? That's a very old idea. And the other colonial powers have moved ahead, have accepted the evolution of awareness. So Putin is fighting for an outmoded idea that the world no longer accepts. And there's something about right now where awareness has tipped and where, and I'm sure it's better communication, because now people, because of the internet, are able to be in touch with people they know and to be aware and to feel the pain of people they feel are just like them. They're friends and relations, and they're not cut off like they have been for all this time. So we can say, I think, that we have become more aware of what's going on in other places. And because the world has shifted strongly in the last 20, 30 years toward democratic governments, you know, people don't want to lose what they have enjoyed. So we're benefiting at this moment from greater awareness and greater pain. And it's a blessing, because now the world can act together and say, you can't do that to people. We are going to support the Ukrainians. That's not the ideal response, not the total peace response, but it's better than turning our backs and ignoring it. It at least puts the old idea into everybody's awareness. Wait a minute, we don't want that, because we have learned a better way. And I'm sure that part of it is the greater awareness of racism and how wrong it is that is growing across the world. That's also new. And colonialism is nothing if not racist. So we are witnessing, we are participating in a war of an old, outmoded idea that wants to survive, and our evolving awareness has made us much more aware than we were before that, yeah, that old idea, its time is gone. It's not the way the world wants to be anymore. So let us then begin to apply this new understanding of the basis for war and start consciously denying old ideas that are struggling to survive. Our global denial of them cleanses our awareness and clears out the places where old ideas want to persevere. So I want to share my screen and suggest that together we declare that conscious beings of every kind deserve equal, respectful, loving treatment. Please say with me, all beings are one in expressing the creative power that stands behind all that is. Therefore, We pledge to honor that awareness of one love and extend our love to all those suffering from neglect or hostility. We deny power over us to ideas that any conscious beings are unworthy to live freely and participate fully in the oneness of divine love. And so it is. And now I invite you to join me in increasing our shared awareness. I was going to stop sharing, but I don't find the will. Of both oneness and the need to identify and deny strongly old, outmoded ideas that are striving to survive in our world. First, let us center in the silence within, where we can release physical ideas about things that exist only in the physical dimension and focus on expressing the love that is our spiritual nature. We focus on and slow our breathing to center in the silence. Become aware that you're breathing. Focus your eyes at the tip of your nose and see the colored air being drawn in and then released slowly and peacefully. In, out, in, out. With each breath, we also hear the air passing through our nostrils. In, out. And as we breathe, we feel our abdomen rising and falling. We also begin to feel all our muscles relaxing. As we continue to breathe and feel our inner serenity, we think about the people from Ukraine that we've seen crossing the border on television into a neighboring country. We see them as fellow humans who, like us, need acceptance, belonging, food, a safe environment. We affirm, I love you, and I see you as one with me and my community. I protect you. I welcome you into my family. Then we become aware of the idea that is acting to force them to leave their lives. We deny the idea behind these actions by Russian troops, saying, I deny power to the idea that one group of people have permission to kill or persecute any other group of conscious beings. That idea of destruction has no power over me or over the world. In the silence for a couple of minutes, we remain conscious of that affirmation and that denial, both of which will advance the cause of world peace. Now, staying in your peaceful awareness, think of people, places, and situations you know where other people need to experience the peace we are affirming. Say their names softly aloud to share them with our whole group.
Váltó. Christian. Raffaele.
Ukraine.
Hyde. Beatrice.
Now, gently and peacefully, as it feels right, bring your awareness back into your physical body and space. Move your muscles from your neck to your toes. And when it feels right, open your eyes and smile positively, including each person on the screen with whom we have all shared this peaceful meditation. We are grateful for this community within which we can share living thoughts, loving thoughts in meditation. And so it is.